Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace was released to the world on May 19th, 1999. This month marks its 25th anniversary. This video essay will look at every aspect of the movie, from its conception to its enduring legacy. Let's get into it. George Lucas's name was permanently committed to the annals of filmmaking history when he introduced Star Wars to the world in 1977. Lucas always had envisioned the original Star Wars to be the middle part of his wider epic. Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, was conceptualized from the start. Not in the exact way we received it, of course. Lucas had always planned on a backstory for the characters, events, and galaxy that would lead us into the original trilogy. Since the beginning, Lucas's vision for this backstory was a tale of decline from an age of prosperity, civility, and democracy into a period of corruption and tyranny. These ambitious plans for movies beyond the initial trilogy existed before the incredible popularity of the franchise. Fast-forwarding to the early 1990s, Lucas, who always pushed the envelope in what a movie could be, felt that visual effects technology had finally matured enough to depict his vision for the prequels on the big screen. Some of the major films that helped him make his decision are ones that many moviegoers love. James Cameron's The Abyss hit in 1989. It featured one of the earliest uses of computer graphics to create a photorealistic character that interacted with live actors. 2 years later, Cameron did it again in 1991's Terminator 2: Judgment Day. The big standout this time was around the liquid metal T-1000 that can morph into various shapes in front of the audience's eyes. This was a major early use of CG, not just being for static objects or background effects. Lucas's real-life friend and peer, Steven Spielberg, blew audiences' minds in 1993 with Jurassic Park. This movie was proof that digital effects could handle complex, dynamic creatures that interacted with human actors. Lucas took these and more as confirmation that the technology could be used to create the fantasy world and creatures required for his vision of the prequel trilogy. Lucas decided the narrative focus of The Phantom Menace is the exploration of the young Anakin Skywalker going from a promising Jedi apprentice to the menacing Sith Lord Darth Vader. He turned to his notes, some decades old, to expand on this universe. He focused on the political, social, and mythological dimensions of his concepts. The pre-production for The Phantom Menace was monumental. The art teams and modelers were put to work with little to no direction. As things were narrowed down, new mandates were given. The creatures, ships, technology, and worlds needed for Lucas's vision to come to life were born before the script was even completed. Costumes and set design were also started before finalizing the script. The mandate was always in blending futuristic and classical aesthetics. These elements both needed to reflect technological sophistication and the decaying morals of the galaxy. If balancing all that wasn't hard enough, it was also important to match the look and feel of the original trilogy without making the in-universe past seem more advanced than the future. The complicated and lengthy task of writing a script for the first new Star Wars movie in nearly 16 years was undertaken by George Lucas himself. He took on the responsibility alone, as a way to maintain control over the growing story of the Star Wars universe. This would be the first script Lucas wrote completely alone since the original Star Wars. The base concepts were started in the early 90s. The first draft was completed in 1994. The revisions were just beginning. The earliest drafts focused largely on the political drama in the galaxy. Lucas initially had a hard time balancing the political narrative with the action and adventure he knew audiences craved. His goal was to balance complex and mature themes with the family-friendly tone Star Wars was known for. Changes were made to match Lucas's evolving vision for the entire prequel trilogy and to seamlessly integrate the latest technology behind the scenes. In the end, the screenplay balanced high-stakes political drama with high-energy action sequences, all while setting the stage for an expansive narrative. This would serve not only The Phantom Menace, but also the sequels already taking shape in Lucas's mind. After several years of tweaking, the script was finished. The casting process was extensive. The process began in 1995. One of the most important roles to cast was the young Anakin Skywalker. Lucas was determined to find a kid who could play innocence with an underlying potential for darkness. Thousands of kids from multiple countries auditioned. A 10-year-old Jake Lloyd was chosen for his ability to seem vulnerable on the surface with deep complexities inside. The other major roles were far from simple. Liam Neeson was chosen to play Qui-Gon Jinn, a powerful Jedi Master who walked his own path, disagreeing with the very order he served. Ewan McGregor got the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi. His challenge was in creating a young version of an iconic character played by an iconic actor in Sir Alec like Guinness. Neeson and McGregor needed a specific chemistry for Master and Apprentice, with some father and son elements as well. All the while, having the two characters disagree on exactly how a Jedi should act. Natalie Portman was chosen to portray a young Queen Padme Amidala. Her role in The Phantom Menace was important for the plot, but her larger character arc was as the love interest for an older Anakin Skywalker. This added a lot of complexity. Lucas wanted to hire a mix of new talent who the audience would see as the blank slate, along with veteran actors who could bring authenticity and audience recognition to the roles. When the movie was officially announced, the world went insane. Anticipation for a movie many thought would never happen reached a manic level. This anticipation was fueled by strategic marketing that slowly dripped the film's scope, characters, worlds, and other elements through trailers, posters, and, of course, toys. Special events like toy releases and promotional appearances kept this wave of anticipation from dipping as the Lucasfilm team worked tirelessly on the project. The trailer broke download records in the early days of the internet. Fans would flock to theaters, pay for admission for movies they didn't even care to see just to watch the trailer. Lucas's views on the technology of the time was spot on, but he's never been content with the status quo. Industrial Light and Magic, the world-famous special effects studio that Lucas himself created for the original trilogy, pushed the boundaries of computer graphics to create never-before-seen visual effects. These effects are holding strong a quarter of a century later. Digital cinematography, CGI characters, and fully digital scenes were all experimented with and refined to be better than anything audiences had seen before. These innovations have also influenced the entire industry going forward. Despite all of these accomplishments, the innovations created by Lucasfilm and ILM were met with controversy. The most controversial aspect was the push away from traditional film and the move into all digital photography. A good amount of the movie was still shot on 35mm film, but ILM worked closely with Sony on improving their HDC 750 digital camera for the visual effect shots. The majority of our entertainment is now created without film, showing that Lucas was ahead of his time once again. At this point, it's obvious to say that the release of The Phantom Menace was a global phenomenon. The movie debuted all over the world on May 19th, 1999. It opened in 2,970 theaters and would expand to be playing simultaneously in 3,126 theaters at its widest, setting records for the widest release up until then. Some fans camped out for days to secure tickets. Many dressed in costumes, waved lightsabers, and created their own events surrounding the movie. This craze wasn't just limited to the United States either. Lucasfilm took on the added challenge of releasing the movie simultaneously in several countries across several different time zones. Being that the craze was so huge, it means that the movie was a colossal success financially. With a reported budget of $115 million, it would go on to bring in $924 million worldwide. It remains high on the list of highest grossing films of all time. This number was strengthened when the movie was adapted into 3D and re-released during that latest craze. Further strengthened by the 25th anniversary re-release. In North America alone, the opening weekend brought in $64.8 million, which was another record at the time. This one for being the biggest opening weekend of a movie. Keeping in Star Wars tradition, the box office was just the beginning of the financial success. Every fan knows merchandising is synonymous with Star Wars. Posters, toys, books, comics, video games, and every last object you can possibly think of were emblazoned with the Phantom Menace art and sold in droves. The hype and resulting financial success didn't protect the film from criticism. Reviews and reactions to the movie were polarizing. Most viewers appreciated the visuals and dynamic action sequences. The criticism wasn't so kind on the narrative direction and new characters. Jar Jar Binks specifically received significant backlash for tonal inconsistencies. Some even accused the character of being a racial caricature. Legacy media organizations were very vocal about the divided reception, reporting both on those who appreciated the vast expansion of the Star Wars universe and those who felt the movie was all flashy tech and no substance. I want to take a minute and dive deeper on some people's reactions to Jar Jar and the talented actor behind him, Ahmed Best. It's important to talk about this frankly because, sadly, this wasn't an isolated incident and isn't a thing of the past. Ahmed Best provided the motion capture performance and voice for Jar Jar Binks. He thought he was creating a fun, harmless comedic character for kids, and he absolutely did for kids of the right age. However, when the movie was released, he faced significant personal challenges. Despite the groundbreaking accomplishment of being the actor behind one of the first fully computer-generated characters, Best received direct backlash. He faced public scrutiny, criticism, and even threats. He's been open about the effects this had on his mental health. He became depressed, even contemplating suicide at a point. Over time, perspectives on the character softened. The harsh criticism died down. Best began to receive recognition for his early work in motion capture performing. He's remained part of the Star Wars family. He continued to voice Jar Jar in the live-action sequels as well as in video games, and the animated Clone Wars series. He got to play Jedi Master Kelleran Beck in the short-lived Jedi Temple Challenge, and then was brought back as Beck in The Mandalorian as the Jedi who saves Grogu from Order 66. Regardless of the criticism, the cultural impact of The Phantom Menace was incredible. The release was just the start. This first of a new trilogy reinvigorated the Star Wars franchise. It brought in an entirely new generation of fans and gave existing fans a slew of new stories to latch onto. The characters, quotes, and scenes penetrate pop culture beyond fan reception and expectations. Episode 1 is a significant point of reference when examining fan culture, franchise strategies, and the role of technology in filmmaking. The Phantom Menace has grown more and more endearing in the eyes of the fandom. Kids who were introduced to Star Wars at this time are older now and speaking in defense of the many aspects that critics in 1999 weren't thrilled with. Its role in shaping the future of digital filmmaking and contributions to the ever-expanding Star Wars narrative are undeniable. Sequels, spin-offs, and new stories in all forms of media can be traced back directly to this film. The technological innovations used to bring this story to life were groundbreaking at the time and are now industry standards. I was 13 years old when The Phantom Menace hit theaters. Ever since the special edition re-releases of the original trilogy, my mom would let me skip school and we'd hit the theater together for a new Star Wars movie. It made the experience that much more special. She isn't really into the franchise, but even up to The Rise of Skywalker, we've seen every Star Wars movie in theaters on opening day. I never understood the severity of the criticisms. At 13, I was a couple years too old for Jar Jar, but it never crossed my mind a Star Wars movie was or even could be bad. I wasn't into the antics, so I simply looked past them. I had an early fascination with ancient Rome. Seeing a republic fall into a dictatorship through corruption, greed, and misdirection paralleled my relatively simplistic knowledge of this advanced civilization. Including the politics in this movie legitimized Star Wars in a big way for me. I was picked on at school all the time. I was the dorky kid walking around with a new Star Wars novel every single month. Seeing a new installment being taken so seriously, even with the goofy comedy, was powerful for me. I idolized Qui-Gon Jinn. To me, he was the embodiment of what a Jedi should be. In the 25 years since I first saw this movie, with everything I've learned about the character, that feeling has only been reinforced. Ewan McGregor is who I wanted to grow into. Natalie Portman as Padme set the standard in my young teenage brain for strength, confidence, and beauty in strong female characters. We got 2 new Sith, in a way, Palpatine's already around, with the title Darth. Also, a better understanding of what that meant. The character design of Darth Maul is still something to get excited about. That shot of Maul when those doors slide open before the Duel of the Fates is as iconic as any shot in the franchise. The Duel of the Fates itself is the most spectacular lightsaber battle in all of Star Wars. It also says so much about what's at stake and the stories to come. When I got my hands on the DVD, I must have watched that fight over 1,000 times. The music still gives me chills. When Qui-Gon Jinn is defeated in battle, I knew this was the first domino being pushed over in the chain reaction that would see Anakin Skywalker become Darth Vader. I look back on this movie that did so much for the franchise fondly. I'm thrilled The Phantom Menace and all the prequels are celebrated more than ever at this stage. Thanks for doing this look back with me. Let me know what you think of this kind of content. I'd like to dive deeper on things like this in all of Star Wars. Check out this video next for more deep dives on the galaxy far, far away.